Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Dr. Alessandro. And in today's video, I'm going to be discussing with you all the process of admissions to dental school. Now, what I am discussing is also probably at least partially pertinent to your medical schools, your veterinary schools, podiatry, name your graduate programs. And I think that this will pretty much apply to all of them with a few details changed here and there. I'm speaking with you all today in the capacity of a former admissions committee member. So as such, I kind of know a fair amount of the ins and outs and what committee members were looking for. And I think that all schools probably have folks who are looking at things in a similar way. Now, all committee members are different, so each person values something a little bit differently. But I'm going to tell you what most of us kind of put the most weight on. That way you know and can be prepared for your process of application. So first of all, it's the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and that is your GPA. So if you're applying to any professional program, dental school, of course, being the one I'm speaking about, your GPA has to be pretty high. And especially, I want to give you a subgrouping that's particularly critical. It's the science course GPA. So if you have a strong GPA, to me as a committee member, what that meant was that you could consistently perform well academically. So yes, every now and again, we're throwing a monkey wrench. One class doesn't quite go our way. That happens to pretty much every student that is out there. But if you are scoring high, that is, if you're pretty much B's and A's throughout the board, that's awesome. And that's what we are looking for, a consistency of high grades. Now, like I said, you can have one or two poor grades here and there, as long as we see maybe if you needed to retake the course because it's a science course that's critical, we see an improvement. If we see an improvement, that's a good thing. If we see that it stayed the same, not a particularly good thing. So grades are important, science grades, very important. So if you scored well in the sciences, then that's awesome. If you scored not so hot in the sciences and did well everywhere else, well, we'll make note of it. But at least you have a strong cumulative GPA, a strong performance overall. Second, the DAT. So what do we think of the DAT? Well, to a lot of people, it's an equalizer. Okay, so it's the same test for every single student. Now, of course, there are different variants of that test, so nobody gets the same exact test. But it's the same type of test, the same kind of difficulty of test. So no matter what school you came from, you're facing the exact same thing. And it kind of gives an idea of how well prepared in the basics a student happens to be. I did not weigh this as heavily as GPA because everybody can have a bad day. So if you took the test and didn't score particularly well, but your grades are really high, all right, I kind of weighed the consistency of high grades over the one bad score of a DAT, that is. So the other thing that I consider, though, to go back to grades is what institution did they get the grades in? So it's different, of course, if it was Yale University or a community college. So there is that to think about. But the DAT is kind of an equalizer. So important test, important to do very well. What sections are most critical? Because there are a bunch of different sections in the DAT. So for the DAT, the sections that are critical are perceptual ability. So that's very important in our profession. You need to have depth perception. So perceptual ability is extremely important, and that's something we look at. And overall, your science scores are very important, and that's something that we look at. So those are the scores that we are focused on as admissions committee members. Now, I'm sure the same thing applies for medical school. I mean, your MCAT, your VCAT, all those scores for professional programs are going to be important. But I think that as committee members, we are more focused on consistency of overall performance. So that's the DAT. We want a good score. Now, if you don't score well and you want to take it again, you can. If you score better, that's awesome, and we're looking for an improvement. If you score the same or worse, that's a problem. So keep that in mind. You can take it again. In fact, you can take it as many times as you want. But after 3 times, it's like the 3 strikes and you're out. If you're not improving after 3, I wouldn't encourage you to keep taking it. It's not going to look good. So, make sure if you do take it, don't do well or don't do as well as you wanted, and you take it again, you do improve your score. Now, what else do we look at? We look, for example, at your interest in the field. Are you working in the field? Are you a dental assistant? Are you a hygienist? Did you shadow in an office for more than 2 hours? I mean, we're looking for more like the hundreds of hours type of point. We want to make sure that you are definitely interested in becoming a dentist. We don't want you to just do well in school, take the DAT, come to dental school and realize this isn't for you. Because then that's a huge waste of resources, especially on your part as the applicant, but on the school's part as well. So we want to make sure that you are definitely interested and motivated to be in the field. So that's really, really important. So now, other interests, yeah, okay. I mean, if you have other interests or have a work history, that is, you have worked, maybe not in dentistry, but you have had a solid job. So you've done whatever, construction, or you've done something with your hands, but you've done something out there. You have a consistent work history. Of course, we look at that as well. Maybe not as important, but we do look at that. Research. So research is great. It looks great, but it's definitely one of those things that we put in a plus column way down the line. So if you've done research and you're published, that's awesome. And I mean, it is an accomplishment. But for our purposes, that may not come into play until we have interviewed you. Now, the interview, that's another really important thing. You need to do well, perform well. So a good interview is going to go a long way if you're one of the students who's being considered for a spot in a class. So if you interview well, that's great. If you're not feeling well the day of the interview, if you're extremely sick, don't come. Just reschedule the interview for another time so that you are feeling well. If you're feeling like it's marginal, well, power through it. Take medication to feel better and power through it. You want to make an excellent impression. So you want to be positive and make an excellent impression. So those are the things to think about. Now, red flags. Okay, so if you've done some maybe not so smart stuff in the past, make sure you disclose it. Do not hide it. Admissions committees are actually looking for stuff like that. So we do research the candidates. We have found people who have not disclosed criminal history, things like that, and that doesn't look good. In fact, that bodes very poorly for your application. So if something hasn't gone right in your life, you have a criminal record, something like that, please disclose it. If you have a multiple criminal record, probably not a good idea to apply, because that just indicates to us that you kind of have a consistency to do negative things. So you can apply, but I just can't tell you you're going to get in. Just be aware of that. So in any event, that is my edition, and it's a basics edition of applying to dental school. I'm sure, like I said, the same thing applies to your medical schools, your vet schools. Each admissions committee is going to be different. Each is going to consider different things. But the big basics, your grades, your standardized test score, and your interest in the field are all really important things that we as admissions committee members look at. So there you have it. Best of luck if you're applying. Hopefully you get in, and I'll continue the series with another video in the future about the costs of professional schools. So again, best wishes, good luck to you, and hope you're staying well and healthy.